tribute to CNN's Ted Turner. Welcome to Mark and Pete. Yes, Ted Turner, he was the last genuinely swashbuckling media tycoon. Yes, this is Mark and Pete, two blokes with half an opinion. Now, here's our first thought.
Cutthroat business. Swashbuckling businessmen are entrepreneurial, money machines who are clever and mercurial. They cross swords in the market with every rival and fight for a future and financial survival. Rebellious and ruthless and often rambunctious. Yes, their swagger with swift and work is industrious. Flamboyant and daring with every deal to the death. A high life, high stakes to every last living breath. Yes, Ted Turner. Well, it is remarkable, isn't it, that Ted himself pioneered cable TV. He also was the founder back in 1980 to actually set up CNN. So, Mr. Pete, I ask you about the media mogul Ted Turner. What do you think of him as an entrepreneur, swashbuckling as he was seen? But his legacy that he leaves is quite extraordinary.
Yes, it is quite extraordinary. CNN is a strange beast in itself. I'll come back to that. But yes, the swashbuckling bit that we mean is that he took risks as an entrepreneur. And really, that's the way that you make money, isn't it? If you're prepared to take a risk, you have the opportunity of making a large amount of money. If you always play it safe, you might make a small amount of money. That's the way it works. That's why some entrepreneurs are able to get startling results. I mean, he did some extra. It wasn't just CNN, was he? Had other media
Oh, yes.
outlets that he started. There was he would, I believe, at one stage he was. I don't know if it's the biggest, but one of the biggest private landowners over in the US. So he really, that's maybe overextending, but he really taking a risk in pushing forward in his business, in his business life. And so I think his legacy is, well, that rather sad to say that CNN has really taken a downturn in quality. It's suffering from what some people call Trump derangement syndrome, which has affected its reporting. But it still seems to be in every airport that you go through, played as the news on their TV screen. So it's, as a business, I guess it's still doing reasonably well. The listenership may be down, but they're still there. And his legacy, I think, though, is more as one who took risks and started things. It's not necessarily what's left behind. It's the way that he operated that people remember.
Well, what's remarkable is that initially there was a lot of skepticism about CNN when he first started it, and he was often mocked as, and in quoted grammar, the chicken noodle network, as it was often described, which is quite extraordinary, really. But of course, this was something that really prospered. And it would be also worth noting that there was an unusual comment by President George Bush, who once said he learned more from CNN than he did from the CIA. Well, you can interpret that how you wish. But the fact is that, for decades, for a channel to be able to survive, albeit that, as you say, that it has gone through peaks and troughs. Interestingly, President Trump himself has been a fierce critic of the CNN, but he did say of Ted Turner, whenever I needed him, he was there, always willing to fight for a good cause.
Yes.
So it is acknowledged that the man behind the channel was somebody who was respected in the industry. And what I think is also important, he was a risk taker. He was somebody who had forthright views, but he was prepared to do things that maybe others wouldn't. On a personal level, he had a bit of a turbulent private life. He was actually married to the actress Jane Fonda from between 1991 until 2001. But it was sadly revealed that he did obviously have those personal challenges. But in business, what I would say is he was a visionary. And that's something that you don't always get in today's society.
Yes, I would say yes. In terms of the legacy of his actual businesses, I was pouring a bit of skepticism on earlier. But really, he created, really, didn't he? Cable news, the sort of
Correct.
24-hour
Yeah, yeah.
cycle cable news,
Yeah, yeah.
which is copied by lots of others, but you might say never actually beaten. People, big rivals. I mean, Fox gets, I think, more views these days. Uh, it changed the whole landscape of media. It's argued that cable news is on its way out, and the internet shows are replacing it, but they haven't done it yet. Cable news is still going. So, yeah, he certainly has changed a whole industry, which that's quite an extraordinary legacy in itself.
Well, what was interesting is that at one time he used to really sort of reflect on his own persona sometimes, and he dubbed himself the mouth of the South. And
Right.
he based the company in Atlanta, not in LA or New York, and he had a
Yeah.
vision to bring this 24-hour news to the world. What I do think is interesting here is that when you sort of look at the media landscape, there are some big influences, and of course, we tend to sort of now look at the more social media type of, moguls that are out there. But I wonder whether really the likes of some of those social media moguls should look back at and thank Ted Turner, because really it's the foundation, wasn't it? It was the foundation stone of good media, 24 hours. And I
Yes.
know it's technologically different, but without it, I'm not sure where the media would be today. I think it would be a different
Yes,
landscape.
and if we look at online news channels, they're still copying the same idea that the ongoing news cycle is part of the way that they work as well. That's their milieu, and he created that. Yes, technologically, the way that you access the media is different, but still, it's the concept behind it that's, I mean, that's changed things. It used to be that news only happened at certain times, it seemed, and in fact, for some events, it seemed like they were timed to fit in, and sometimes, overtly so, with the evening news, so that you get reported. Whereas that's all changed now. I mean, people still do change what they're doing is so as not to affect the markets too much. That's a different matter. But the idea that news was on a schedule has now changed. You report the news is reported on immediately. And I wonder if he's responsible then for the fall of newspapers, because
Yes.
the newspapers are always behind with the news after
Well,
his 24-hour news cycle.
it's a good point because, as you quite rightly say, for centuries the printed media was very much dominant. But of course, obviously, it couldn't keep pace with real
Mhm.
time. Now, obviously, with a 24-hour news service, it absolutely, to your point, certainly caught people's attention, both in business and also on consumers. And I think that that is something again that we have to sort of look at Ted and sort of see him in a totally different light in this form. And I think that from my point of view, he had an empire basically. He included organizations like TBS, TNT channels, Turner
Yeah.
Classic Movies, Cartoon Network, which I know was one of your favorites.
Oh yeah,
Um,
still is.
and, and when you think about that, that sort of shows the creativity that sort of came through all of his work. No, I think that the good thing here is that we should really be sort of grateful for those. Not many people probably would know the name Ted Turner in the European and Asian markets, but without any doubt, without Ted Turner, I'm not entirely sure that we would really be enjoying the media that we would typically do today. So really, I think what we're saying here is this is a great tribute to Ted Turner, swashbuckling businessman, and yeah, for sure, we thank him for his legacy, and we hope that maybe God is looking upon him to tune in for the next version of his entrepreneurialism.